Welcome back to the Game of Muscle YouTube channel, where in this video we're going to talk about the latest update to next car game, Wreckfest. Yes, the racing destruction derby game that's been in development since 1432. I'm surprised the developers are still alive after spending so long on this title. And to summarise this update and my view of Wreckfest, this has to be the most frustratingly missed potential game on the market at this point in time, especially within the genre of racing games. But we'll get more into that later. First of all, what's actually changed in the update? The main things are the tracks have been polished off and they actually look like fully fledged circuits now, not tracks that are in development. The netcode seems to be slightly improved. There's more vehicles. The vehicle handling seems slightly improved. The menu and overall structure is also slightly improved, with there now being a somewhat single player that you can go through. And it seems they've ironed out a lot of the little bugs that were occurring in the previous versions of the game. Don't get too excited though, because it still feels like it needs another year or 2 years of development, or at Bugbear's pace another 50 years of development, which is really frustrating because the core mechanics, the stuff that developers typically get wrong with driving games, are absolutely fantastic. The handling, the force feedback and the raw driving is better than any other arcade game I've played recently, and I'd say the actual handling and force feedback in this is better than something like Forza 7, for example, and more communicative in many ways than GT Sport. And of course, the unique selling point and the aspects of this game that's absolutely extraordinary and a world leader, aside from BeamNG, is the way the cars can be damaged, the way the bodies of the cars sort of soft deform, body parts fall off, handling is affected. But aside from that, also the world has a ton of destruction to it. Bits of concrete fall off the walls when you hit them, tyres go flying everywhere, scenery, fencing and stuff all breaks up. It's absolutely glorious and phenomenal, and pretty much a 14-year-old boy, or in this case a grown man that's essentially still a 14-year-old boy's dream when it comes to what you sort of think of, this is what a child wants to see in a racing game. But then, for some reason, this game has one of the most atrocious user interfaces and packaging of the gameplay ever in the history of racing. Well, not quite ever, but you know, it's so painful to use. For a start, it took me 30 minutes just to get things set up to a basic level when I first loaded up this latest version of the game as a fresh install. I couldn't even get the mouse cursor to display on the screen. It seemed to just spontaneously appear and disappear at times, forcing me to use the keyboard. And I did double check I didn't have a gamepad installed, which can sometimes cause that issue. Just really, really bizarre. The overall structure of the menus and at what point you choose if you're going to use manual gears, difficulty settings, or just having to push the enter button to start a race when you've already clicked begin. It's just all these really bizarre structural aspects that totally ruin this game in many ways. It's like they've got a total golden nugget there, which, as I say, most developers fail at the core driving, force feedback and important stuff. They've got that pretty much nailed, and they've had that to a very good quality since about a year or so ago, to be honest. And then they've seemingly just abandoned having a nice user interface that ties it all together, which normally is something that a developer can do pretty fast. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. I also think with this game just how wide the appeal is. Everybody I know that doesn't like racing simulators and driving games, they all go, oh, where's the crashing? Where's the destruction? Because that's what they're interested in. And that, you know, that was the point of the original Destruction Derby. You could absolutely hate cars, you can hate driving, but pretty much everybody likes crashing things together, blowing stuff up, you know. It's like how everyone generally likes to just shoot things, and that's why first-person shooters are popular. So why have they not finished this and had something that's going to make them an absolute ton of money? I just don't understand. I don't understand it. Then also following on in terms of the where we are in the modern era of games, this would be absolutely phenomenal in virtual reality. Why not put that in? Why not have VR support and sell this as a VR Destruction Derby game? It's miles more polished than many other VR titles, if you ignore the user interface, that is. again, it makes no sense to me at all why this developer is seemingly just sat in a beach lounger smoking joints. I don't know what's going on. Enough of the game muscle complaints department. At times, this can be really good fun to play. The AI, I'd ignore that. Even on the easiest setting, they can just tap you and they rotate you all the time, and it's ridiculously frustrating. So just, why even bother with AI? Just focus on the multiplayer. Focus on what you've already got with this game developer. What you've done well, what already works, put a nice user interface on it. Congratulations, you've got a game that just about everybody that likes breaking cars wants to play. The multiplayer, though, when you get into an online game with people, the lobbies seem quite active. Every time they patch this, once every 6 months to 1,000 years, the multiplayer does get quite active in this game. So at this point in time, with the patch just coming out, it's a good time if you have this and you want to do some multiplayer racing with it before it dies down again. But the multiplayer racing is really quite fun. People actually strangely drive cleaner in the multiplayer in this than they do in other simulators or other games where it's not meant to be crashing, which is weird, doesn't make any sense. People online, when I've driven this as well, tend to drive cleaner than the artificial intelligence do. Again, doesn't make any sense, but I don't know. Give people the opportunity to kill each other and it's all peace. Tell people they're not allowed to kill each other and it's World War III. That's human psychology at work right there. What's really nice with this, though, is obviously you think maybe it's all about crashing, but there's enough depth in the vehicle mechanics and the force feedback and the general handling that when you're actually just driving by yourself or just trying to do fast lap times, it's satisfying and you always feel like you can improve things. It's really fun modulating the throttle, modulating slip angles through corners, and that's when you're just driving by yourself through the countryside. It captures a degree of that sort of dirt rally or rally driving experience, but then also within the context of a race. And you know, it's a sort of weird mix between rallycross, rally, and destruction derby, and it's something completely new, completely fresh, and just really satisfying and very, very addictive. If it wasn't for the game to be a total nightmare to actually set up in the first place, and generally use at a basic level because of the god-awful interface and random interface bugs and random game bugs. I think it's worth also saying that visually, obviously the damage and the deformation and particle effects and things breaking is really quite spectacular, but visually there's so much grass on these stages, and you know, grass is really important. A track, as I say, if it's got more grass than a circuit, it's a good racetrack, and these tracks have plenty of grass, lots of hedges, shrubberies, absolutely superb. And outside of the grass, which, as I say, is the most important aspect, the lighting, the shaders, the general shadows, the effects, the texture work, all the visuals come together to deliver something that's really quite a visual feast. Your eyes will be, it's as if your eyes are having a Christmas dinner every time you do a lap in this game. It's just, I mean, I'll keep going on about it, but it's that contrast between the core game, the actual in the car driving, and the user interface. The contrast is like, it's like going from AAA title to pay to win microtransaction half broken mobile phone game. You know, maybe the excuse from the developer is it's an alpha, so you know we've not developed the UI because there'll be features and stuff that change, and UI will have to change to accommodate them. But they have updated the UI with this update, but many of the bugs have continued to stay there from the previous versions in terms of it being just a pain in the arse to use, as I say. And it's, let's face it, I think this game is 4 years it's been in development now. For this type of game, given that the core mechanics, driving and the actual stuff that's good was pretty much nailed a year, 2 years ago, when it really just needed more content, just sort the bloody UI out, guys. And the impression I get of this, from the development standpoint, is it really comes across as if the developers are avoiding the boring parts of game development. They're like, let's do all the stuff that's fun, that comes out really interactive and exciting, and you know, all the R&D stuff, that's really great. But let's not bother with any of the bread and butter that holds a game together, because that's boring to develop. We'll forget that. We'll just keep putting that off. We'll just keep putting it off. It doesn't matter. We'll just do the fun stuff to develop. So, I mean, I can't really think of a better way to sum this update up and Wreckfest next car game. I mean, the name of the game pretty much sums it up in terms of how bonkers it is. If you can put up with the atrocious user interface, as I say, the driving's superb. Some really funny moments happen because at its core, you know, it's one of those physics games. Really crazy things happen that are hilarious. And there's some really crazy cars. There's lawnmowers in the game. The Destruction Derby mode is really nicely done. Probably the best Destruction Derby mode in any game ever made. The racing is really fun. So there's lots of fun there. I think if you're prepared to, if you're thinking of buying this, think of it as, I can accept the atrocious UI and I just want to do some multiplayer racing with people, and the AI is atrocious as well, so I probably won't do single player. And maybe if you've got a group of friends, I think if you've got like 3 or 4 friends you could play with, and you can load this up and you can have a race online with them, that'll be really fun and you get a load of enjoyment out of it. So there's lots of fun to be had with this. It's not bad, it looks nice, it's just a total mess. It's very much still in development. Thank you for doing a new patch and updating the game though. I do genuinely enjoy this, and I do really enjoy seeing this game be updated, and maybe before I die of old age we will have a nice polished Destruction Derby type game. That'll be really nice. I can't wait for the day that happens. Now I'm running the game with a GTX 1080 Ti and a i7-6700K processor at stock, 4 GHz. It seems to run really well for me. That's not a surprise with that spec of system. It'd be interesting, those of you that have lower spec systems, if you can let us know in the comment section if the game runs well for you. I do get the impression though that the game runs better now than it did, or more consistently across the board with its frame rate. When it slows down, it does so in a smooth fashion rather than it being big judders and jumps, which is what seemed to happen before. So yeah, I mean, it seems to run well, it seems to work. It's just the UI and the packaging makes me want to kill myself. Maybe I'm just crazy. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it informed you as to what was in the update. If you like this, of course, like the button. Like the button. Just like the button. If you don't like the video, like the button. That's what it's there for. Of course, subscribe if you like driving, simulators, racing games, virtual reality and flight simulator and all that goodness, because that's what we do on this channel. And until the next one, guys, thanks for watching this. Have a good evening. Goodbye.